Hello everyone, welcome back to Thepticon. Hope everyone's having a fine day. Today we're going to talk about Ovid's Pythagoras, especially his thoughts on vegetarianism. So here's a painting that shows the Pythagoreans, and they lived in this communal way, kind of in a cult-like setting, and they had these mysterious rites. And this had great influence on people because this idea of these vegetarian philosophers, musicians, it was very striking. So we have this painting from the 19th century, Pythagoreans Celebrate the Sunrise by Fyodor Bronnikov. First of all, who was Ovid, the author that is describing what Pythagoras was saying? Um, he's known as the author of the Metamorphoses. He was born Publius Ovidius Naso. He's a Roman author of the Augustinian period, and he's best known for the Metamorphoses, as I said. He also composed the Fasti, the Ars Amatoria. Um, so, to get to the point, he's a Roman author, all right? He's a later Roman author. Who was Pythagoras? Pythagoras lived, 5 centuries before. He was a mathematician and philosopher. Um, there are a lot of people with the same name, so this is Pythagoras of Samos. No writings survive from Pythagoras himself. Everything else is transmitted via his pupils and by people hundreds of years later, like Ovid. He's known for his doctrine of metempsychosis, that is to say, reincarnation, very similar to the Hindu idea of reincarnation. He's known for the idea of the harmony of the spheres, that the universe, that God is numbered, that it follows a certain mathematical scheme. And he's also known for vegetarianism and also kind of humorously his advice against eating beans. It's kind of not clear why he advised his followers not to eat beans, but he did. So let's take a look at some selections from Ovid's description of Pythagoras. And in fact, the words that Pythagoras speaks are supposedly being pronounced by Pythagoras himself. So here he talks about impious food. Human beings, stop desecrating your bodies with impious foodstuffs. There are crops, there are apples weighing down the branches, and ripening grapes on the vines. There are flavorsome herbs, and those that can be rendered mild and gentle over the flames. And you do not lack flowing milk, or honey fragrant from the flowering thyme. The earth, prodigal of its wealth, supplies you with gentle sustenance, and offers you food without killing or shedding blood. So here, what is he saying? He's saying it's not necessary. It's not necessary to eat meat. The earth is prodigal in its wealth. It's overflowing with wealth. You just have to look. There's apples hanging from the branches. There's grapes on the vine, and all the green plants. Maybe if they're not very good raw, they can be cooked and made kind of gentle and sweet. And here he's not advocating a vegan diet. He's talking about drinking milk, eating honey, but those are there too. In fact, that's the idea of this, that the eating of meat is superfluous because there's other better things to eat. So now he talks a little bit about the origins. Who was the first person to start eating meat? From that, the wickedness spread further, and it is thought that the pig was first considered the merits of slaughter because it rooted up the seeds with its broad snout and destroyed all hope of harvest. The goat was led to death at the avenging altar for browsing the vines of Bacchus. Those two suffered for their crimes. What did the sheep do, tranquil flocks born to severe man, who bring us sweet milk and full udders, who give us your wool to make soft clothing, who give us more by your life than you grant by us dying? What have the oxen done without guile or deceit, harmless, simple, born to endure labor? Here, I would say the most important idea is he's describing more or less the origins of agricultural societies. And in these agricultural societies, they have crops to defend, and they can't permit the pigs to run around and destroy the crops, A. Or B, they can't permit the goat to get in the vineyard and mess up the grapevines, to eat all the grapes and all the shoots. So we can see here this paradoxical thing where, yes, people were growing plant foods, but at the same time, they were also growing and eating animal foods. And then he talks about, once again, his vegetarian idea of lambs and sheep being more valuable alive than dead. Same thing with the ox; it's more valuable alive than dead. And you got to think at this time the ox was a huge, important sort of machine. There were no tractors, so why would you in effect eat your tractor? It didn't make much sense in that context. He talks about the golden age. Um, but that former age that we call golden was happy with the fruit from the trees and the herbs the earth produced. It did not defile its lips with blood. Then birds winged their way through the air in safety, and hares wandered unafraid among the fields, and its own gullibility did not hook the fish. All was free from trickery, and fearless of any guile, and filled with peace. But once someone, whoever he was, the author of something unfitting, envied the lion's prey, and stuffed his greedy belly with fleshy food, he paved the way for crime. It may be that from the first weapons were warm and blood-stained from the killing of wild beasts, but that would have been enough. I admit that creatures that seek out our destruction may be killed without it being a sin, but while they may be killed, they still should not be eaten. So this is a fascinating idea. He's talking about what he pictures as a golden age, um, which, in my opinion, is more of a Roman idea than a Greek idea. But anyway, we got to remember it was Ovid writing this, supposedly said by Pythagoras, but Pythagoras had been dead for hundreds of years. Um, so we have a picture of a time when animals weren't afraid of people, right? Everyone, there wasn't all this violence around. And then someone just started the practice of killing and eating dead animals. And she describes at the very end here that it's okay to kill animals in self-defense, but one shouldn't eat them, which is also a very fascinating idea. Here I've titled this section Respect for Life, and that's really the point here. We should allow those beings to live in safety and honor, that the spirits of our parents or brothers, or those joined to us by some other bond, certainly human, might have inhabited, and not fill our bellies as if at the Thyestean feast. What evil they contrive, how impiously they prepare to shed human blood itself, who rip at a calf's throat with the knife, and listen unmoved to its bleating, or can kill a kid to eat that cries like a child, or feed on a bird that they themselves have fed. How far does that fall short of actual murder? Where does the way lead on from there? So indeed here, he's describing a kind of slippery slope. You start killing animals. Where does it go from there? If you can commit violence towards animals that you took care of yourself out of your own hand, maybe he's talking about a bird, perhaps a chicken or something. If you fed this chicken, you love this chicken, and you can just one day, turn a switch and say, oh, now I'm going to cut off its head. What does that say about your thoughts on ethics? Well, when, like he says at the end, where does it end? Where does it lead from here? The implication being to the slaughter of people. And this is what I've titled Respect for Life Part 2. Let the ox plow, or owe his death to old age. Let the sheep yield wool to protect against the chill north wind. Let the she-goats give you full udders for milking. Have done with nets and traps, snares, and the arts of deception. Do not trick the birds with limed twigs, or imprison the deer, scaring them with feathered ropes, or hide barbed hooks in treacherous bait. Kill them if they harm you, but even then, let killing be enough. Let your mouth be free of their blood. Enjoy milder food. Here, once again, he's talking about preserving these agricultural animals for their agricultural purposes, which can be sort of dismissed as an economic necessity. But here it's definitely moral in nature. He's talking about preserving their life because they don't deserve to die. Same thing with the wild animals. Like if that were true, that it was just economic, then he wouldn't be talking about saving the wild animals. So it's definitely an idea of compassion. And then he's once again reiterating that you should be eating easier food to digest, milder food, sweet foods, rather than all this bloody dead meat. Okay. So that said, do you think ancient arguments against meat eating still hold up? Let me know in the comments below. And that said, you can find what I was reading right here, this translation of the Metamorphoses by Ovid. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed the discussion about Pythagoras' vegetarianism. because really he was a very important figure for many centuries in Western culture. Vegetarians and vegans were called Pythagoreans just because of, and Ovid's picture of Pythagoras was one of the most important for, well over 1,000 years. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.